guys, welcome to In the Game Room with Spencer, and this is video number 2 in the Game Room, where I just talk about different big things that are happening in games today, just opinion pieces, wanting to get opinions out of you kind of thing. And today we'll be talking about something that I think is a huge bane on the entire video game industry, and that is game budgets. Game budgets are getting ridiculous, just like blockbuster movie budgets, spending $350 million on one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Video games are getting ridiculous. I saw a piece the other day saying that Destiny, the new game coming out in fall 2014, is going to be the most expensive game ever made. Previously it was Grand Theft Auto 5, and it was some 250, 300 million kind of thing. Destiny is looking like it's like going to double that, you know, to the tune of like $500 million for a video game. More expensive than any movie ever made, more expensive than almost a lot of like pro sports venues, like a lot of this stuff. Like it's a lot of money for a video game. And this is negatively affecting the video game industry in a lot of ways. These budgets are getting out of control. The companies are obviously making less profit out of it because they're putting so much money into it. But a bigger thing is they have to start to casualize the games more, to sell more copies. It becomes less of like getting it done perfect, and how can we put this game out to sell absolutely positively the most copies. Last year when THQ went under, there was an article on South Park: The Stick of Truth. Now, South Park is one of those things that, for any of you that know, it is super low budget. They can make it really fast. There's a documentary out on this where they will see the events of the current week, and they will make, you know, that South Park, and newer stuff too, with we're not talking cardboard cutouts, we're talking like computer. They can make it that week. Now, THQ and then Ubisoft, when they bought it over, said something along the lines of they needed to sell something like 6 million copies of South Park: The Stick of Truth to break even. Now, they don't make every cent out of a $60 purchase. It's probably somewhere around the $30, $25, $35 range there. But it's not hard to do the math of 6 million times, you know, the projected income from each game, 25, 30 bucks, something like that. It's huge for a South Park game, for a game that ended up being very, very good, not very long, and had the graphics of a South Park kind of thing, which again is very chintzy and cute on purpose. That's when it got me to thinking, like, oh my god, these game budgets are getting absolutely ridiculous. Nowadays people, well, it's always been the case that people have cared about graphics. And graphics were a big thing, you know. The bit wars back in the day with Sega and Nintendo was a huge thing. The bits were all about how good can this thing look. It may seem a little more ridiculous nowadays, but it's always been about that. But the thing nowadays is when you watch any game, you could pick up the worst game on the last gen. Let's say Ride to Hell Retribution, probably the worst game last gen. Beat it, look at the credits at the end, and it's going to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. Whereas you could beat Mega Man 2, and there was a lot of time and, you know, fair share of money put into the game, but you watch the credits at the end, it's not that long. Games nowadays, you know, have, you know, 50, 100 graphic designers. They have 10 people composing the soundtrack. They have huge marketing team, huge all this kind of stuff, and it just adds up. I look at the indie market and see that it makes a lot more sense. I mean, you put out an indie game like Minecraft, back when it was indie, and you know, you're projected to only sell X amount, but you only need Y amount to put it out. A good company that is really good at that nowadays is Atlas. Atlas will put out Persona games knowing full well that they have a target demographic that will absolutely eat up everything they ever put out, but they realize that your average person isn't going to go, excuse me, do you have Persona 3 FES for the PS2? Like, there's only a certain amount of people, and again, if you're watching this video, you probably care enough to at least know what that kind of thing is, maybe be interested in it. But your average person who you know, watches Spike TV and sees the commercials and goes, I'm going to get that Grand Theft Auto kind of game, doesn't care at all. But they keep the budgets in place that way, knowing, you know, what they're doing. Games nowadays, especially marketing budgets, are just getting crazy, and I don't know if it's going to take a video game crash to bring it down. I honestly don't see that happening because video games are so popular and selling so many copies. I mean, last year Grand Theft Auto 5 broke the record for most sales and everything, but not every game's a Grand Theft Auto. There's a lot of games out there that they put $100 million into it and they only get 80, 90, maybe even $100 million. And if you're in it to make money, these companies have to figure out a way to drop some of the budget. I don't know if it's ease of use, ease of like how you make the graphics and everything. One of the big things that I think could be cut down a lot is marketing. EA's Battlefield 3, I forget the exact number, but if you look into like how much they spent on the game and how much they spent on the marketing, you're looking, it's pretty close. Like they make the game. Imagine making something for $1,000 and then using $1,000 to get the word out there, kind of thing. But make that $100 million. I just think there's easier ways to do it. It's easier than having commercials on every station. People attune to word of mouth and everything. People attune to what's good out there. Taking a game and making a polished turd kind of thing, and then calling it the greatest thing ever. Eventually, people will catch on and be like, "Dude, I just don't like this thing anymore." So, like I said, that is a huge thing. I want to get your thoughts on it. Do you like the current state of how the games are coming out and everything? Do you want to see them try to go to more small budget things? Do you know of any way you see to make budgets smaller? Do you think $500 million for a video game like Destiny is absolutely ridiculous? Can you even imagine how many copies, DLC, all that stuff they'll have to move to even break even on that? What are your thoughts on all that in general? Obviously, I don't want them to cut everything away from video game budgets, but I think they could prioritize their money better. And people have been making great games with, it looks like old technology to us, but the current great technology of the day for way less than it is now. Why is it so crazy now? Why are teams, thousands and thousands of people when for every game you put out? Is it just because technology is getting that crazy, or is it because they are not using their money correctly? Well, thanks. Let me know, guys, and we'll see you next time on In the Gamer.